all the victims out there that are listening, okay, anybody like me, anybody who's hanging on, who's really holding on for hope, okay, I can tell you right now, we are at the closest moment we have ever been in the state of Pennsylvania at extending the statutes of limitation both criminally and civilly for future generations of children. And we are incredibly close, closer than we have ever been to getting a retroactive window look back for those of us who really were set up. I didn't have a chance. I only had till I was 15 to say something, and I was set up. The church knew what was going on to the children. They found out, they were told. So I really didn't have a chance. So what people can do right now, and right now we have a 6 to 8 week window. This is coming up right after the budgets. By the end of March, this is going to be full throttle. We need to support Representative Mark Rossi's Real Deal bill. His bill is the only one that considers victims, both current, past, and future, because he's the only one that is a victim in Harrisburg. So, of course, we're going to listen to his bill. 2, I have a petition on change.org to Pennsylvania Senate Pro Temp Joe Scarnati. You can Google change.org and with my name, Shaun Daugherty, or PA Senate Pro Temp Joe Scarnati. Sign my petition to Senator Scarnati, read my letter, read my materials, and sign that petition. And call your local legislators, your state representatives, and your state senators, and let them know we want extensions of statutes of limitation, and we want retroactivity. Now, they're going to tell you, the ones that are against us are going to tell you it's unconstitutional, but they're wrong. It is constitutional. And when they say that, just let them know that no Pennsylvania judge has ever ruled on this. So let's find out if it's constitutional.
Yeah, let's test the waters, in other words. Let's not just hang back and wait for something to happen. Let's make it happen. Talking with Shaun Daugherty, of course, who is very adamant about protecting the children and, of course, the children to come in the future against the dismal display that happens in the Catholic Church. As we mentioned before, talking with Judy Block-Jung, we're not blaming the Catholic Church as an institution, but systemically, they've done some things over the last few generations that, quite frankly, folks, it has to stop now. Having said that, Shaun, let me ask you this. You were talking about Mark and his efforts in Harrisburg. Are there some people standing with him, or are most of these people gun-shy and don't want to, kind of hang with him on getting this bill through? And what is the current statute of limitations now as it stands?
For any current victim, I believe it's 30 years old. For statutes of limitations right now, they have until they're 30 years old to speak out. I'm 47, but what one thing that's, is really driving me crazy, I'm not really getting on the church as well. But one thing that I don't understand is, say the church wasn't the church that we were talking about. Say it was a notoriously dangerous motorcycle gang that was molesting children,
or a school teacher.
Would the Pennsylvania Senate be having meetings with this notorious motorcycle gang, asking them what they thought their new laws should be, or would they be running them the hell out of town? Really, money and power and lobby groups are what is really holding this law back. And who in their right mind would ever give the people that actually covered up this heinous crime any say whatsoever in what the new legislation should be?
Well, you hit the nail on the head there. Let's go back and talk about some of this institutionalized abuse of children, okay, at any given time over the last 50, 60 years. If it had happened in a school, do you think they would bring in the school board to talk about this without maybe prosecuting or convicting some people? And the other thing, Shaun, that you said there that kind of piqued my interest was the lobbying. This Catholic Church must have some heavy money and some heavy hitters. Are they down there in Harrisburg basically hoping that this goes away?
Between the Catholic Conference and the insurance industry, there are close to 40 lobby groups fighting against me right now in Harrisburg.
Yeah.
You know, I have a fundraiser on change.org right now. I'm trying to raise enough money to pay for buses from all over the state of Pennsylvania to hopefully go to a future rally in Harrisburg at our capital. I think my fundraiser is up to like $2,100 right now, and I'm up against $2.5-3 million in lobby groups. You know, 30 to 40 lobby groups, and each one of the lobby groups has how many people pushing for them. You know, what I have radio interviews like this, and I have listeners that are listening right here. The power of the people, the power of the pen, the power of the phone call is really what the victims are counting on.
And that's what Shaun is asking you to do, folks. He's asking you to pick up the phone, call your state assemblymen, your state legislators, let them know that you need this bill to be passed. And we're coming up, as Shaun mentioned, on the budget talks. And, you know, Shaun, we oftentimes get bogged down in the budgets here. But we have cases that are still pending from many years ago, like yours. You're just going back and saying, come on, wake up. You know, he's not doing this personally, but he is the personal face of what it is. Let me ask you this, Shaun. Our past state attorney general, she made a big deal out of this. It hit the fan, man. Last year in Hollidaysburg at the diocese office, Kathleen Kane. Josh Shapiro, is he, do you have any hope that he might pursue something further on behalf of you and all the other victims?
I do. I have full confidence in our new attorney general. He ran on this topic, so he has
some skin in this game.
In this going on,
right?
And He ran on this topic, and he so far has prosecuted child rapists already. Not priests, but he is going after child rapists.
Right.
Rapists. To go after one more thing, you know, the budget negotiations, to the listeners, to the taxpayers, if you don't think that there's an overall cost invested into this, and you don't think your taxpayers are paying for the church's cover-ups, you know, you've got another thing coming.
Right.
You know, there's all kinds of costs that are transferred to the Joe Blow taxpayer that people don't even understand. They're paying lobby groups to protect their priests.
Yeah.
But our tax dollars are paying for incarceration. We're paying for treatment. We're paying for drugs. We're paying for drug rehab. We're paying for alcoholism. We're paying for everything that goes along with the things that I battle day to day. The state taxpayer is covering that cost.
Well, I don't want to really drudge up like bad memories, Shaun, but give us an example for those people just tuning in to the Greg Banks Show here on the Air Network. Who is Shaun Daugherty? Where are you from? When this happened, and we don't need to know specifics, did you go to the Catholic Church or maybe your parents? And what happened back then when you were 14 or 15 years old?
What actually happened when I was 10 years old.
10 years old.
I was 10 years old when it started, when I was at St. Clement's Parish, and Father George Garchik was my basketball coach and started grooming me, and learned to other kids from that school and from other schools. And I began to get molested. You know, I'm one of 9 children, Irish Catholic family. You don't talk about sex. You don't talk about the priest. You don't question. You obey. You know, and so I went along, and for 3 years, you know, it went along. Which is now here's the hard part. Now, since the Attorney General's report come out, I have actually learned my whole story. I have always just assumed my story, but now I know my whole story through the power of social media and other interviews and things. I have learned that I'd begun to being molested in 1980, although I didn't tell my parents until after I got home from boot camp from the Navy in 1991, when I was 21 years old. A family did, in fact, tell Monsignor O'Toole at St. Clement's in 1983 that they were being molested. They had a meeting with then Bishop Hogan, and they they were then, it took 6 months to transfer my abuser, Father Koharchik. They transferred him in my 8th grade year, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They had knowledge that he sexually abused children, confirmed knowledge. They transferred him to another school in Portage, and they actually allowed me and 3 of my friends to go into his private space in his room, pack all of his personal belongings, go in his car, ride to the new rectory, and spend the first night in the new rectory with him in Portage. Oh. Nobody told my parents why. Nobody told anybody in the parish that he was being moved for that. Yeah. I learned that story about 2 months ago, and I'm dealing with that reality right now.
And this is St. Clement's Church, the school there in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Shaun, I don't know if we've ever met, but of course I worked in Johnstown for many years, and we'll talk about that at a later date. But, okay, so that happens. Were you like one of those children who went home to their parents and said, Mom and Dad, this is what happened, and Father O'Leary did this to me, and they said, don't you ever repeat that again. Don't you say anything about, because he was such a, let's say it was any priest, he was such an authority figure that they just couldn't believe it?
When I was a kid, I didn't say anything.
That's
when I
right.
was 21 years old, I told my parents, and yeah, you're right, they didn't believe me. Yeah. They bowled with this man every Thursday night in the church bowling league. Now my mother will tell you, she's in shock still. My 83-year-old mother, she says over in time, I have given that man countless hugs, thousands of hugs.
Right.
I've given that, no, and they didn't believe me. My father, I told my father in 1991, Father Koharchik's picture didn't come out in the Tribune Democrat paper, and that community didn't know for sure until 2012, okay?
Right.
That's when his picture came out. My father passed away in 2014. I had 2 years that my father knew that I was telling the truth.
There again, as I said.
Quite frankly, the community didn't even believe it until the Attorney General's report came out 4 years later in 2016.
Yeah, and that is so sad. And that's really the crux of the problem, folks, that we are running into these days. These folks need our help in holding these people accountable for covering up these crimes against children. Now, also, and I will say this quickly, Shaun, the Catholic Church continues to lobby against the statute of limitations reform. Folks, they want their secrets to be kept hidden. The Catholic Bishop Conference, they're paying big bucks to fight this thing. And you're listening to Shaun Daugherty, one man out of hundreds, maybe thousands in Pennsylvania. This guy has come forward, and he needs your help. So again, go to that, change.org. We'll give you the information probably throughout the next couple of weeks. You heard an earlier conversation with Judy Block-Jones of SNAP. Judy's been on our show several times. We can't be adamant enough. There are millions of stories out there, just as Shaun's telling us now, and so we need your help. Shaun, you said there's a time element here. We need to do this rather quickly. We don't have much time.
No, we really don't. The Senate has already passed one vehicle through, Senate Bill 261, which does extend the statutes of limitation. However, it does not leave any retroactivity window for people like me to file civilly.
Right.
There will be, right after the budget, there will be a House bill that will have that retroactive window. Mm-hmm. Now, this is the very important part of why retroactivity is important. The Senate bill says it protects children. It does not protect children today. It gives today's children the ability in the future to civilly charge or criminally charge. It does not protect them. The Attorney General's report has named priests out there, has named pedophiles that are roaming free right now. If people like me don't get the opportunity to file charges and people like you start to report on those charges and information that we learn from that through discovery, today's children aren't protected. And guess what? I can guarantee you my children will never, ever, ever 100% be sexually abused. Do you know why? Because I don't have any children.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's been made clear for me, so it was hard for me to have kids. I can guarantee my kids will not be sexually abused by anybody in that report. Unfortunately, for your listeners' children and your listeners' grandchildren, I can't make that same guarantee.
Right.
And if the Senate bill passes, and that's our new law, I can all but guarantee that those people in that report are still sexually active and are still seeking children.
And you have to be.
So that's why retroactivity is important, ladies and gentlemen.
And you must be disheartened, Shaun, because when you saw that review come out after the Attorney General's office went and discovered all these documents, these secret documents, the list of names that came out, here it is a year later. I don't know what happened to these priests. Did they just disappear? The only ones I've seen are the Franciscan priests who were involved in the Stephen Baker cover-up. But I've not seen these other priests.
My guy lives a handful of blocks from Garfield Middle School, right? He lives a handful of blocks. He's not registered as a sex offender. He's freed. He's paid.
Was that Kaharick? That was, I'm
sorry.
Which priest was that again? Kaharchik over in Johnstown. So he's not far from Garfield Middle School there in Johnstown. And you say he's never been rung up on any kind of charges?
Nothing. He's not registered as a sex offender. He admitted it in the grand jury report, and he is not registered as a sex offender. He's pretty much retired as a priest. He collects a pension as far as I know. He collects benefits as far as I know.
Let me ask you this real quick then. We know that in this cover-up, as it's progressed over the years, there were names of district attorneys who had knowledge of this, who had meetings perhaps at one given time, law enforcement. They're in Johnstown. Craig Faust, I just put that name out there, who somebody came to Craig years ago when he was the chief, and I don't know if they ever investigated it, but nothing ever happened. Does that dishearten you, Shaun, to know that our authority figures, the people that are supposed to serve and protect us, aren't perhaps doing their job? Because I'm not saying there's a payoff, but something is going on.
It makes me sick. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Where's everybody, that whole thing that you just played out, just like the beginning of the movie Spotlight, where the police is in there, the attorney's in there, the DA's in there, the bishop's in there, everybody's in there. Everybody's got a degree, right?
Yeah.
Everybody in that room's got a higher degree. Some have a graduate degree. Some are very educated people. They've all sworn oaths to protect and serve. The priests, the bishop, they all swear oaths. The ADA, he swears an oath. Judges swear oaths. Police swear oaths. Everybody in that room, they wanted to protect the parents and they wanted to protect the church. Who was there to protect the children? No one was there to protect the children. It irks me. And now today, a 47-year-old man who's a veteran who is being told by the state Senate that it's not constitutional when we have judges that's insulting my intelligence, it's insulting to my service, to my country, that I'm being blocked out, my money being paid for by the church, who are the very people that molested me in the first place.
And, and saying that, I attended the Catholic Church. I'm not a Catholic apologist. I just happened to raise my children in the Catholic Church because of the fact I was married to a Catholic. But having said that, Shaun, they would come around and raise a lot of money back in the 70s and 80s when I went to the Catholic Church, and we never knew where that money went.
The church is a donation business. So absolutely, any money being paid to lobby groups on behalf of the Roman Catholic Church is being paid for by the parishioners, indirectly.
Right. And
no doubt about it.
Judy and I broached last hour, and I kept bringing this up to Judy because it was kind of strange, where the Pope left the Catholic Church years ago, if you remember, Shaun, and nothing was said why, because we don't know if Popes retiring. They die in their jobs. That's what they're supposed to do. But that Pope just happened to disappear. And, he was the keeper of the secret documents in Vatican, where there were records of countless abuses worldwide. So I can't just blame the local church. They obviously are tied in with the main Catholic Church. So, You've got an uphill battle, man, but the only way you're going to defeat this is if people get off of their butts and make these phone calls, write these letters, raise some hell, because as Shaun keeps telling you, hey, listen, yeah, he's taking care of his business, but he's trying to protect the souls of these other children, but it could be your child next, and it could be your grandchild next. So, Shaun, keep up the good work, man. I know you got to... I hope you feel a little bit better knowing that there are people in your corner back here and that we need to do whatever we need to do, and we appreciate you bringing it to our attention because that's what we're doing, making people aware.
I really appreciate all the attention, and it does. With every interview like this that I do, with every person that comes up and thanks me on the street, with every private message that I receive, I feel more powered. I'm more empowered. I'm not the scared 10-year-old kid that I was before. I'm a very empowered 47-year-old man, and I take great comfort in knowing that the diocese and the Senate and the lobby groups have knots in their stomach over me, and I have your listeners to thank for that. And if they call and support, they'll have bigger knots. If your listeners just call in and support in my cause.
And once again, Shaun, so people can reach out to you personally, give us a couple of ways that we can do that and help you. Give us an address for change.org. Shaun Daugherty. Go ahead, Shaun.
Well, they can go to change.org and search my name, Shaun Daugherty, ShaunDougherty, or you can go and like me on Facebook. You can also follow me on Twitter. I am at _Shaun Daugherty. And really just, get political, get on the phone, be involved. If people think that you can't change the needle, you're crazy, because I'm changing the needle, and I know it for sure. So, pick up the phone, give me a hand.
And so we thank you for your efforts. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate this interview.